Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to G for G. I'm your host, Napalm Dawn. Today's background sound is not actually music. It is the relaxing sounds of oceans. The relaxing sound of water lapping casually at the shore until some really big chick with a hammer comes out and smacks you with it. As you can tell, this video is going to be a discussion on Mockingbird joining the ranks of the worthy. She's taking the place of Attuma, turning into Necrod thanks to the Breaker of Oceans hammer. So, let's talk about Mockingbird, what we think she might have. Let's take a look at how she is in her current status, and talk a little bit of trivia about her. So, as we know, she joins Null, Kurth, and Skrin being the worthy, of course. So we're talking about Luke Cage, Spider-Woman, and She-Hulk. She-Hulk and Null are probably the two closest together out of these, with Kurth breaking off a little bit and adding the immunity to psychic and delirium effects. We all know that worthy are immune to burning, chilled, poisoned, radiation, and fear. I'm also going to guess that she will not be a flyer. So considering that she's going to be the Breaker of Oceans, perhaps she will have something similar to Meteor Swarm in that all attacks have a chance to gain a stack of drowning up to 5. Drowning, similar to what you see in the Mysterio fights, means you will take a increasing amount of water damage per turn. Perhaps the only thing that will remove it are fire attacks. Now that is sort of how drowning works now, except drowning says ice attacks will work too. I would disagree with that with somebody who is the ruler of the ocean. If you rule all the oceans, you are kind of ruling what goes on in the Antarctic and Arctic circles. Kind of makes sense that water, chilled, they're going to go hand in hand. Some games historically have made a difference between ice and water, but I'm going to say that Playdom's going to be a little bit more narrow-minded with this and should lump chilled and water and freezing into the same thing. She has a great potential to be overpowered, and my one suggestion for what might keep her in check is make her take 1.5 times damage from electricity. Electrical attacks and static charge deal 1.5 times damage to her. Because burning and chilled and all that won't work on her. You could make fire attacks take 50% reduced damage. Chilled, maybe have that take 50% reduced damage also. But ramp up the electricity to kind of balance that out. Ground, I don't know. That might be a little too over the head of this game. Of course, if we're talking about things like, let's say, Chrono Cross. Ground and air had some synergy in fire and water and everything like that. I don't think ground is a big enough factor in the game to affect the Breaker of Oceans, but it's possible. And it might be an interesting way of countering the meta with another meta. If Null and ground attacks have issues with the water and the water attacks of Necrod, you know, that could kind of be interesting. Typically, water's had the advantage over fire, and sometimes has had the advantage over ground in certain games because of the whole erosion factor, but I don't think they'll stretch it that far. So a lot of the discussion was, who is going to be the next worthy? Some people had said Black Cat. I kind of didn't think so because she had an alternate suit, but as we all know, Playdom likes to break streaks. Some people had thought Thundra. This was me. I was the one who really thought Thundra because she was kind of built like a worthy already. As some people have pointed out on the wiki today, there is another worthy out there who uses a chain-based weapon. That, to me, screams that they're going to go with Thundra. They may have allowed, they may allow us to believe that, and then turn around and totally screw everything over and make it somebody else. So, I'll just grab Arthas over here. Here's Arthas the cat. He's poking at me. I think he's hungry. Hi, buddy. You getting hungry? Can I finish my video on the breaker of oceans, and then I'll break you some food? So, that's going to be very interesting to see if they go for that, because it really does seem like she is in line to take that worthy slot. Some people thought maybe it'd be Sue Storm, but again, she was a member of the Fantastic Four. Although she did get involved in the whole Submariner and Attuma fight going on over there. So she was slightly tied to the whole situation, but that means she would have had a break out of the Fantastic Four and everything like that. My money, really, I was saying 90% Thundra, 10% Mockingbird, because Mockingbird was already considered a solid character. So a little bit of history of her on her. She was the very first ever Spec Ops, which dates back to October of 2012. Think of that. In just a few short months, we will have had 3 years of MAA content. So that was back when, in order to get her, you 5-starred all the missions, which if you look on the wiki now, that is why there is always that little fine print of 5-starring the missions will not get you the hero. It's because it used to one time. Some other trivia. All of the weapons available in that Spec Ops are now in the store. They include things like the Enchanted Crowbar and the Toolbox and others. The Enchanted Crowbar has seen some PvP play and is considered a relatively decent weapon. Its biggest thing is that it works with pressure points, and that's actually where Mockingbird really, that was her wheelhouse, was to work off of pressure points. Aside from being the first Spec Ops hero, she was the first generalist. She was the first new character to the game after the stock characters, and she was also the first character that you fought as a boss and then later turned into a friendly. So here she is. She's Bobby Morse. She has had some dalliances with Hawkeye. And that's why if we take a look down here at Hawkeye, she has Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Assemble, Average Joe's, Best Coast for the West Coast Avengers, Birds of a Feather, Keep It Secret for being a secret Avenger. I do believe that she is currently being played on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show by Adrienne Palicki, who was the rather attractive woman in the second G.I. Joe movie, and she was also in the remake of Red Dawn with other Marvel alum, Thor. Nice how that all kinds of wraps in over there. So I also thought maybe it could be Sif, and the reason was I think in the Spec Ops currently it says after her deploy they were like, well, we'll let you get back to your whole worthy shenanigans over there. Hi, buddy. I love the cat. But yeah, she did go missing at the end of something recently. So people who guessed Mockingbird, kudos to you. You guys win the prize. So Mockingbird has one ISO to her name, and that is an E-ISO called Prediction. It comes from a really bastard of a heroic. Prediction says that her passive triggers before the attack lands, which means if a tactician goes and attacks her, she will immediately do infiltrator shit back in their face, rather than turn into an infiltrator and gain combat reflexes for everything else. She is a pressure points worker. She puts them out on her level 1 and she exploits them on her level 9. She has a debuff called Critical Intel. Mockingbird changes to her target's counterclass before attacking. This does not happen multiple times in a round, so if you were to gain a tactical bonus and then attack an infiltrator, you would turn into a scrapper, but then if you attack another class, you would not use your second turn from being a tactician to turn into something else, but you would bring your scrapper benefit going forward. She has Pole Vault on her level 2, which does combo setup, and it has a reasonable chance at stunning. In examining the E-ISO, the regular ISOs that we can apply to her, Very little on the level 1, as it is melee. So knocking is the best bet over here, because if you turn into an infiltrator, you have a chance to spread stuns. If you turn into a scrapper, you're going to double hit. Pulverizing is also really solid, as she is strictly melee based, so why not apply wide open, which says melee does extra damage. Her level 2 is a little bit more robust in that it is melee and unarmed. I would eschew the melee ones here and go with unarmed ones, and I would go right to pressurized, because why not give her something else that can put out pressure points? If you're going to come off pressure point applications to try and go for a stun, you still can put out pressure points with this ISO. Bloody doesn't make the most sense, and Pugilist is not a bad idea, because you do not exploit combos on this. Equipped unarmed attack gains exploit combos. However, somebody else would want to set the combo setup for her. Being a 2-round cooldown, the chances that combo setup are going to be available the next time this move comes around, not good. I'm going to go with pressurized. The next is a debuff, nothing we can do. And finally, her big hit, Mocking Blow. I would go with a increased chance to crit, because it is deadly crits unless you are running the SHC. If you are not boosting her crits very high, then you would want to go, if you are boosting her crits very high, you would want to go with increased chance to do damage. So here the hit crit is 97, 16. I would honestly go with the powerful Marshal. So, let's take her into the simulator and talk about her a little further. She was part of Team Pesty Kill back when Pesty got really popular and people were looking for counters to her. Credit Kingfisher for setting up this team right here, Havoc and Mockingbird. The reason being is they were heavily able to take advantage of Pesty setting himself up that debuffs cannot be removed. So why not ensure that pressure points sticks onto Pesty that you can later turn around and exploit it? One of the best ways of doing that at the time was using Havoc to spread them in an AoE fashion and prevent against tactical bonuses. This move right here was one of the key linchpins of Team Anti-Pesty. Spread out the pressure points and exhaust the enemy team. What I'm going to do here is further do pressure points with the Neuro Purge, and then I'm going to up my crits with the Small Hadron Collider, otherwise known as the SHC. He gained an extra turn, so I'm going to go right for a nice little single target on the power armor, because he's going to sit in the way. Mockingbird is not going to gain an extra class on this attack because we have to go for the power armor because he tanks. As you can see, she did pretty good damage, but now her mock combat procced. She turned into a tactician before Sin attacked. She now has an extra turn because of that. She could have actually gained 2 extra turns. Tactical maneuvers and the extra turn for her passive of Tactical Insight. She only gained 1. Last time I did this, she actually gained 2. So, let us, because it has no cooldown, let us hit that power armor and a relatively solid white hit. I now have an extra turn, so I'm going to punch Sin with some pressure points. Now, interesting thing about Mockingbird, specifically with her level 9 provides a horrible representation of the damage she will actually do. Her level 9 predicts way lower numbers than she actually puts out, and we'll see if we can see that in action. So I'm going to punch the power armor for pressure points, because I now have to take him out again from Mockingbird. So Mockingbird has a 100% chance to hit, 100% chance to crit now. the estimation is that she is not going to kill the power armor. If you look closely, it predicts she's going to do half damage. You can see it there, and you can see it on him. Half damage. Watch what's going to happen. Nearly death. A 6.3k hit that has taken him to death's door. So we're just going to punch him to get rid of him. And that is definitely a bug that has followed Mockingbird for some time. Her estimation comes in stupidly low. Don't know why. And we'll just, do a little bit more pressure points. Our goal here is to show Mockingbird in action and kind of have her do the big putaways. Unfortunately, she's not going to have the stamina for anything here. I'll just do aftershocks so we can get rid of that infiltrator. Yep, so she does not have the big put-away stamina, so we're just going to recharge, see if she gets the extra turn off of being a tactician. And it looks like we will, but she takes a stun. And we get reinforcements again, so we'll just whittle down the team over here. Neuro Purge. So this is actually not a terrible PvP lineup for the existing Mockingbird. This could be a way of using Mockingbird the way she is right now. So what are the possible passives and attacks that she might get? I'm going to say that the level 1 will be some kind of hammer-based attack. It will cause pressure points and it will cause incapacitation. The level 2 might be something aquatic-based. And maybe that will cause a freezing debuff, or freezing buff on her, similar to the freezer gun. Now the freezer gun says that you ice over, and that by icing over, your defense increases. I think that could be a good passive to somebody who deals with being the breaker of oceans. So we see that she's now turned into a scrapper. I'm just going to blast that guy out. 21k without ramping up. We don't need to do that. Let's just Soulfire for the win. So maybe the level 2 will be something like that. The level 6, I'm going to maybe predict is some kind of an aquatic summon. Like, she rides in sort of like Valkyrie on a sea creature. I mean, it sounds very Aquaman-ish, but, maybe she comes in on a gigantic seahorse with reins or something. It doesn't sound very original on my part. I apologize, but, maybe it'll do something like that puts out, like, weak point and a few other Karnaki-style debuffs on the enemy team. Her level 9, I'm going to say, exploits stuns and exploits pressure points, and maybe does something else. Honestly, with her existing weapons, it's conceivable that she could cause internal bleeding. We don't have a lot of internal bleeders in the game. I mean, we've got Daredevil, we have Blade with an ISO, and we have Elektra. Let's get another internal bleeder. Let's maybe have her cause some kind of a drowning debuff along the way. As somebody posted on Kickfisher's Facebook today, they had suggested, how about drowning? The thing is, drowning says fire and ice attacks remove it. I don't think ice attacks should remove it. Fire attacks can remove 1 stack of drowning. We'll say it could stack up to 5 times, which will make it good and bad. Good for her, but she'll turn her into a high priority target that people will want to get rid of her quick so that the drowning stacks go away, similar to Meteor on the Null. However, when used with other worthy, you now have a tough time deciding on who do you want to get rid of. Do you want to get rid of Null with his Meteor stacks? Do you want to get rid of Kurth with her runes? Or do you maybe want to get rid of this kind of Ring Imperial Doom style drowning attack from Necrod over here? So it's going to be very interesting to see how she plays out. As far as classes, I'm going to say that she's going to be Generalist and Scrapper. Bruiser and Scrapper has fit all the other worthy, and it makes sense. They all could go either way. But I'm going to say she maintains the Generalist. I don't know if she'll maintain the character switch. It seems good for Mockingbird. I don't see it as being that good for a worthy. It doesn't seem to really fit. But it could be interesting. They may just go the route of the other worthy, go, hey, you know, they're melee based, Bruiser Scrapper, Bruiser Scrapper. But, so, could we see freezing up? Could we see drowning? Could we see internal bleeding? And could we still see some form of a class switch? Who knows? So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below about what we might expect from her. We certainly have enough time to really think it over and hash it out. Take care, everybody.